Welcome, everybody, to Optimism Town Hall. Good to be back. Welcome back in 2025. If you're not familiar with Optimism Town Hall, it's a collaborative forum for discussions at the Superchain with a special focus on governance and community coordination and the Ethereum ecosystem. Our weekly events create an interactive space where everyone can learn about the development of the Optimism Collective, explore opportunities, and contribute to important conversations about the future of the Superchain. We organize our agenda according to a democratic topic selection game or system called Cagendas, short for community agendas. And we also sometimes play a game called OP Topics, where everybody can vote with respect tokens, with reputation tokens, as well as different tokens in the Optimism Collective on topics to discuss things that are most relevant for the community and the collective. You can learn more at optimismtownhall.com. You can explore the FAQ to see how it works and check out optimism.io to learn more about the Optimism Collective as a whole, building a world that benefits all, owned by all as well. Building on the Superchain with OP mainnet base, fractal mode, Redstone Zora, Unichain, much more with trusted community-led governance and an aim to actualize the optimistic vision, empowering public goods creators. At today's episode, we're going to be discussing a topic proposal I made called Growing Together, Strategic Evolution for 2025. This is our first event of the Optimism Town Hall in the new year. So we're beginning an exciting new chapter, and we had some posts about the fractal communities, the Optimism fractal communities, and the Eden fractal communities, and the fractal ecosystem as a whole. That we'll dive into. I'll show more details about what exactly is on the topic agenda, and so what topics are on the agenda and so forth. This was inspired by a topic or a blog post that Tadas wrote about current problems with fractal communities and the schedule. And it was also inspired by lots of strategic discussions that we had at the end of season, or at the end of 2024, rather. So we'll get into that in more detail. But first, I'll just invite everyone to register for the bi-weekly events, Optimism Town Hall. As I mentioned, we switched to a bi-weekly schedule, and this is the first event of the year. Everyone's welcome to join every other Thursday at 18 UTC and invite friends. We'd love to meet other people. And also, you can, of course, feel free to watch the videos and register for the other events on the Optimistics calendar as well, including Optimism Fractal, which happens an hour before Optimism Town Hall each week, and the Eden Fractal community, which pioneers these fractal decision-making processes. And you can watch all the videos of Optimism Town Hall on the videos page up in the top corner. We're now in our third season, and you can see all the episodes organized, as well as the retro pitches episodes that we did. Rosmari put together this nice page with show notes for each of the episodes, where you can find timestamps and so forth from everything we've discussed in our third season, including Optimism Season 7, our 2025 strategies, and the ORDAO implementation, and recognizing impact and so forth. And we encourage you to like and subscribe to the Eden Creators YouTube channel, where you can watch all these videos and much more related to the work that we're doing in these communities. You can check out the gov.optimism.io forum post and the thread to also follow along with how Optimism Town Hall works and what we've been up to in this season so far of Optimism Town Hall. I encourage people to check it out and get involved in the forum in general. And you can see the strategic evolution for 2025 with the bi-weekly schedule in a post there. So for today's agenda, well, for each week, I mentioned we use this community agenda system, Cagendas, and basically the way it works is anybody can propose a topic on the Optimism Town Hall snapshot space. You can find the rules for this on the Optimism Town Hall site or the Optimystics site. Optimystics are the team that presents these events. Basically, anybody who's earned respect or has OP or is a badge holder can propose a topic, and then whichever topic has the most votes at 17 UTC is the topic that gets discussed. I made a topic this week called Growing Together, Strategic Evolution for 2025, and talked about how we're beginning a new chapter, and I'm thrilled to welcome everybody back for Optimism Town Hall for the first session of the year. And this year holds tremendous potential for the Optimism Fractal community, Optimism Town Hall, and communities around the Superchain to create unprecedented impact in the world, scale up on everything we've been doing over the past years, all the tools, all the things we built, and to really actualize the optimistic vision, as well as help everybody in the communities thrive. So I propose that we play OP Topics, which is kind of like we have a topics poll here where we have a bunch of topics that people can vote on throughout the event, like we were doing in the previous week's events, and the topic that has the most votes is Optimism Town Hall and Optimism Fractal 2025 planning. So feel free to put any votes in there if you'd like to change your votes or discuss something different. But that's basically what's on the agenda, and the topic with the most votes about the planning for 2025, I believe, is a crucial discussion given strategic developments that emerge over the winter break. So I'm very curious to hear everybody's perspective. And now, I mean, feel free if anybody wants to raise their hand or jump in, but I think I'll give a bit more of an overview about what is the context and what is the strategic evolution that we're on right now to help set the stage for the conversation that we'll have here. So yeah, so there's a couple different things here. So one, I mentioned previously that we've been having a lot of strategic discussions from the end of 2024 going into our switch to the biweekly schedule and much more. Optimism season 7 was announced about a month ago or so, and it's going to be starting in about a week on, I think, January 16th. And we have a detailed article on the Optimistics blog, which talks about our strategies, kind of summarizes a lot of the documents that we've been discussing, and 3 or 4 videos from, I think maybe 5 videos actually, from Optimism Town Hall events where we discussed the new Optimism season and our strategies and so forth, discussing all these things. And I had made this proposal and some suggestions and ideas about benefits of going to the biweekly schedule and new things that we can introduce in the community. We also have been discussing this at Eden Fractal, which is a community that's been pioneering fractal decision-making processes and the kinds of tools and processes that Optimism Fractal is using for the past few years. So you can find a lot of detailed context there. And then a couple of weeks ago, Tadas made an insightful blog post examining how the Optimism Fractal community can optimize meeting schedules, development cycles, deliberation processes, and funding mechanisms, and pointed funding and deliberation and development cycles as like kind of key priorities for the Optimism Fractal community. Tadas can speak more to that. I see he's on the call now. And he proposed an innovative 7-week meeting structure to address these needs, which is a change from what's previously approved. It was kind of a first draft, but there's a lot of really great ideas here. I encourage everybody to read it if you haven't yet had a chance, or at least I encourage everybody who's interested in getting into the details about our strategy and our evolution. I enjoyed reading it several times and really got into it, and that inspired me to make a article in response. So we talked about the reasons for deliberation and the schedule here with alternating schedules with project specific fractals focused on funding and other things like that. Funding has been a major it's been kind of a major bottleneck in the fractal communities. There's a lot of potential. We've come a huge way, largely on volunteer effort with some grants here and there. And so Tadas was thinking that, having more deliberation and funding spaces, and also opportunities to test the software in fractals where people are more like okay with trying out new developments, because we're trying out lots of new software, Optimism Fractal, would be helpful. And he's urging everybody to foster more consensus, not just competition, but have this deliberation. So that's kind of like a high level overview of his article. And then my article develops a strategic framework for fractal community members, and encouraging the collaboration and the synergizing between Optimism Fractal and Eden Fractal. And I started making 2 different proposals that build upon Tadas's blog post and the problems he identified, as well as some of the goals that we're aiming to achieve in the past several months of these strategic discussions, as well as some problems that I thought that were with Tadas's idea of the 7-week schedule too. And out of that, I developed this detailed document called Growing Together that includes 2 draft proposals. One is to implement Cagendas at Eden Fractal. So now Cagendas, since Optimism Fractal and Town Hall switched to a bi-weekly schedule, Eden Fractal switched to have it on Thursdays at 17 UTC. So the Optimistics team is still hosting bi-weekly events, or still hosting weekly events basically at Thursdays at 17 UTC. But instead of it being Optimism Fractal each week and Optimism Town Hall each week, it's alternating with Eden Fractal. So I have a proposal to implement Cagendas at Eden Fractal using the ORDAR software that Tadas has built to allow people to vote on topics at Eden Fractal that are relevant for the fractal ecosystem. And then I have another proposal to establish core intents to help align priorities across the fractal ecosystem, focus on increasing the engagement of the respect game, respect token utilization, and funding of the fractal ecosystem. And there's a lot more detail here about why I see these synergies and why I think it's helpful for us to align these communities in these ways. Thank you to Das for quickly sharing some detailed comments here. I had shared some responses as well. I'm looking forward to getting more into Tadas's feedback as well as discussing these. I went over some acknowledgments of Tadas insights, some issues, and then there's much more details. There's other pages here that are kind of like early works in progress for the proposal for Cagendas and so forth, but it does provide a good amount of like implementation details about how this would work and a comparison with how it would work at Optimum Town Hall and strategic benefits and so forth. So I'm aiming to have these totally finished by next week. Also, one of the main goals with this Cagendas that I have is that we allow Optimism Fractal community members and other Fractal community members like the Zao Fractal or communities building with the Respect Games app, or the Genesis Fractal, which was actually the first Fractal, to have voting power in this as well as soon as it's possible. And that kind of goes along with the interoperability theme of Optimism Season 7. But I think that may be sufficient for the introduction. There's a whole lot more here too. There's also an article about the Eden Fractal core intents. Once again, that's kind of early stage in terms of writing it out properly and fully. But yeah, I encourage everybody who wants to get involved with these strategic developments really this year, I think we have a lot of that foundation is laid for transformative growth of the Fractal ecosystem, thanks to amazing builders and contributors in the ecosystem, and the general benefits of these respect game and fractal decision making processes and everything that we built over the past years. I think that we are in a position to take what we've done in these, small and cozy communities where we've all had amazing relationships and really bring these products to the world, help many more people benefit from these coordination tools and games and things that we've come to love here so much, and help everybody enjoy it on the Superchain on Ethereum. So encourage people to read the articles, get more involved, and encourage everybody to get more involved with helping the fractal ecosystem to maximize impact in 2025 with Optimism Fractal and with Eden Fractal and with all the other great fractal communities out there too. So that's, I think, it for my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions or go into any more details there, but I've already been giving quite a detailed presentation here. So if anybody has any questions or comments, or Tadas, perhaps if you want to share more of an overview about your article. I only gave it a very quick overview, but if you want to go into more detail about it, would love to hear it, or your reflections. Or Rosmari, Will, Tom, Zal, anybody who wants to share any thoughts, then feel free. And does anybody, it looks like we're pretty quiet here. I'm happy to go into any more detail if you'd like, but I just want to make sure that we have a chance for everybody to speak and so forth. I see Tadas is on camera though. So Tadas, would you like to share some thoughts?
I can try to present the article if there is a need, you think.
It's up to you. So would love to see it if you'd like. If you want to share your screen, then you can feel free. I do think this is a very important conversation. So I'm just going to say here, first and foremost, just thank you very much, as I did in the chat message, but really appreciate your thoughtful article. It inspired me a lot. And yeah, I think it's really important to get the right strategy and the right way to orient our resources and so forth. So it was very thoughtful, and I learned a lot by reading your article. So I appreciate that. I'm looking forward to hearing more of your thoughts. And I see Tom wrote all good here, max information capacity with a smiley face. Yeah, we have a lot of information going on here. So I appreciate you learning, and feel free, Tom, or anyone else, if you have any questions or any other thoughts you want to share at any point.
Yeah, so for me, this is more about not being focused on external goals, but more about like how to create a process that would be more optimal for all of us to do our work, for those who are working for Optimism Fractal. I mean, who are working on infrastructure of Optimism Fractal, on processes and so on, as opposed to those who are contributing to the Superchain more. Yeah, and when before the break proposal came out to have bi-weekly schedule for Optimism Fractal, immediately for me, intuitively, I see like asymmetry. If Optimism Fractal meetings and Eden Fractal meetings happen at same cadence, because Eden Fractal's mission is much more general. It encompasses the mission of Optimism Fractal. And for me, it seemed that it would be more useful to have Eden Fractal meetings twice as rarely as Optimism Fractal meetings. And the way I see it, it could be like a hub for many different fractals. Like those of us here are aware of Optimism Fractal, but there's other initiatives like Respect.Games app that Vlad is building, and we are building Bitcoin community. And with their designs, we are going in a bit of a different direction. And I think for these two communities, Respect.Games app and Optimism Fractal, it's useful to have a space where we could meet and share each other's progress and share knowledge and so on. But I think it's not necessary to have these meetings too often. I think once a month or so it would be optimal. You need on the other hand, I think we need more meetings to discuss more burning problems for optimism fractals, for specific fractals. So yeah, one of the things I suggest in the article is to schedule more meetings which would be more focused on specific issues. So basically, I even suggest to create a subfractal which is focused on solving funding problem for optimism fractal, for example. And yes, so have introduced these meetings, and to compensate, we also, like I suggested, have Eden Fractal meetings happen more rarely. So it balances out in a way where we would have the same number of total meetings, but yeah, it would address the problem I see, that we lack more focused discussions on specific issues, and that I don't see the need to have biweekly meetings for the general goal of which encompasses all fractals. Yeah, so in the article, I also then try to propose a schedule that would address those issues, those needs. But yeah, as I wrote this, I knew that it had problems, but I wanted to give a first draft. And right now, as I reread after the break, I already see more issues. And thanks to Dan, he showed me some other issues. So basically, the schedule part of this article, I wouldn't look too seriously at, but yeah, I think the general thoughts about the need, about what kinds of meeting cadence we need, I think it's something to consider. And another thing I tried to tackle in this article is how to integrate our DAO development in a way into the meeting schedule, because I think it would be, I think when new fractal software is released, it would be better to test it on smaller, less key meetings. And I propose that we use these project-specific meetings discussion meetings to test the new software, and if it's tested, then we apply them to bigger fractals like Optimism Fractal and Eden Fractal. So I guess that's my overview.
All right. Sounds good. I see Tom giving a thumbs up. Thanks to Das, and Rosmari's giving a thumbs up too. Thanks for the overview. And yeah, if anybody else will give it a heart, we're going on my screen as one by one on a line in terms of who's giving a heart or a thumbs up. So yeah, if anyone else wants to jump in or ask any questions, share any thoughts, then feel free. Or to Das, at any point when you get more ideas inspired, feel free to jump in, of course, too. I suppose I can respond as well, since I've been thinking about this a lot. So yeah, maybe one other thing I want to highlight too is Tadas brought up this motivation section that I hadn't really thought about before, but I think he laid it out in quite an interesting way, talking about the relationship between meeting cadence and level of detail and size of contributions, where he explains how as the period of time between meetings increases, people will be able to do more work in between meetings. And that means that the level of detail and presentations of contributions decreases. The impact of the the impact of the presented contributions increase because you can do more in that time. And the comprehensiveness, the understandability, the legibility for a larger amount of people increases. The potential user base for participants in the meeting and potential people who watch the videos. I don't think I'll read the whole thing right now, but it makes like a really interesting contrast between and kind of an analysis of the schedule of the meetings. So when we first started doing what we now call the respect game, it was just the idea was we do it every week, but I think this is worth considering quite a bit for fractal communities, because I think fractal communities or just implementing the respect game could work on different cadences like biweekly or monthly or longer as well. And these are good kinds of core principles to keep in mind. And then also, yeah, we actually did just have this issue a little bit. So Abraham made a lot of progress with the app, but we still had a couple little issues that we were dealing with our app too. So having the need for smaller fractals or like communities or places where we can test out the software, I think that's also quite important as well. So thanks to Das for sharing this perspective as a developer of OrDAO and sharing these thoughts about avoiding technical debt and all these principles, and as well as pointing out the need for funding and the need for deliberation. So encourage people to read that. I also provide an overview of my response to Tadas as well as my proposals in the Growing Together article. So I suppose I can move on to maybe just go and share a little bit more about that. If there's anything else I didn't share, maybe I'll just go real quick just to make it clear what I was sharing there, because I kind of just briefly went over it, but there's these two sections here where I go into detail about acknowledgments and insights from Tadas's article, where I kind of discuss those things like the importance of the development cycle integration. So we can test out OrDAO and fractogram and so forth in different fractals. The value of the analysis between mating cadence and community engagement, the strategic priority of funding, and the power of structured deliberation. So those are some insights that I drew from Tadas's article. But then the issues that I saw with it, I listed 4 of them here, each with some details. There's also details in more detail about the acknowledgments and the benefits. But I also thought that 7-week schedule that Tadas had originally proposed, the first draft, could also be it could also create issues or problems, or perhaps limit our growth in different ways with our marketing community growth. There's benefits to having these weekly or biweekly events, and by switching to the biweekly schedule, alternating with Eden Fractal, that still enables that weekly schedule of events that like people can play the respect game and come enjoy the experience they've like grown to love in many cases and given a lot of excellent feedback on. And then also consistency and simplicity about the idea of having just simple biweekly events or simple weekly events when alternating with Eden Fractal has a lot of benefits. And that's been one of the things we've done quite well, I think, that people have enjoyed. And so I do think that this schedule, it's simpler and consistent, and it's worth testing this. And then resource utilization, I mentioned about how I don't have a totally clear idea about what exactly Tadas means by the project-specific fractals, and I don't know, maybe we'll have over the next week or coming weeks, we'll have more time to chat and think it over. But I know there's like an idea to have a funding focus project-specific fractal, which I think is a great idea, to deliberate funding opportunities for the fractal ecosystem and help fund all the different fractal ecosystem communities and tools and so forth. That's really important. And having focused deliberation spaces is great for that. But I think that doing it at Eden Fractal and Optimum Town Hall is a great place, because we already have these websites and all the branding built up and stuff like that. And I'm open to different ideas, or maybe starting other events in addition, or figuring something out that accomplishes these goals. But I think that currently we have a lot of great resources, and it makes sense to operate on more than this 7-week schedule, where Tadas had suggested Optimum Fractal and Eden Fractal operate like once or twice a month or so, or maybe more like once a month or once every 2 months, depending on which event it is. And then I had a comment about Tadas's thoughts on the meeting frequency too, and the balance of it. So I thought that Eden Fractal, because it's kind of like a smaller ecosystem, it makes more sense to collaborate more often. So my proposal still it basically continued the biweekly proposal of alternating events between Eden Fractal and Optimism Fractal that was previously approved, or the biweekly schedule was approved via the council, the Optimism Fractal Council, about a month ago or so before we went on the winter break. And then Eden Fractal's been operating on a biweekly schedule for the past 7 months or so. So my proposal continued that schedule, but it introduced trying to achieve what Tadas is trying to achieve, or a lot of the problems that he identified, trying to solve for those problems, with the main proposal for that to implement Cagendas at Eden Fractal, like I explained before, where we keep this biweekly schedule, but then we just have it where people can vote with their respect tokens, basically, at Eden Fractal, to have these deliberative processes. And we also can play respect games at Eden Fractal too. So we can play respect games with the Fractogram software and the OrDAO app. We position Optimism Fractal as kind of the community more focused on fostering collaboration, and we invite people from Base and from Inc. and Unichain and all around the Superchain and the Ethereum ecosystem to Optimism Fractal, and we aim to make Optimism Fractal a very polished experience that people can join and have great software that's been well tested. And we market Optimism Fractal more outwardly, and then we still continue our promotions for Eden Fractal. We mostly market to the Fractal communities as is at Eden Fractal. and we really hone in on providing Eden Fractal, like everything that the fractal ecosystem needs, as well as Eden Fractal can. And using this Cagendas game allows people to vote with their respect tokens to determine the top priorities, like if it's funding or if it's wanting to build the tools and like focus on a certain tool or something like that. But I think like trying out different kinds of respect games at Eden Fractal via Cagendas, and also having it because of the biweekly schedule, we can have more time to schedule it. So as I showed before, I have this draft of the Eden Fractal Cagendas blog post here, or it's a Notion page right now. Anybody can comment on these, and if anybody wants to read these over the weekend or something like that, and comment on them, then that would be much appreciated as well in the Discord or in the Notion page here. Happy to share access for anybody who's listening. And so I'm going to work on refining this completely by the end of the before the Eden Fractal break, and we'll continue these discussions, I think, at the Eden Fractal event next week. Basically, I kind of provide an overview of how it would work, pretty similar to Optimism and Fractal, and then there's an overview of the differences, and then overview of the strategic benefits that many of these are specifically trying to solve for what Tadas shared there. And then in general, the point of that article, the what was that article? The growing together article that for some reason I'm missing now. This growing together article also lays out a pretty detailed analysis of just how the fractal ecosystem can thrive by having Optimism Fractal and Eden Fractal both serve like different respective goals, where Optimism Fractal really focuses on its core intents to benefit the superchain, um, to foster collaboration, award public goods creation, optimize governance on the superchain, as well as to help everybody who joins Optimism Fractal and who's interested in optimism. Whereas Eden Fractal focuses on helping to advance these underlying tools, processes, mechanisms, funding considerations, providing this platform where people can discuss all these things and provide a place for people from Optimism Fractal, Zao Fractal, the Respect.Games apps communities that are building there. Prior Fractal communities has been a bunch like the Genesis Fractal to try to bring together and provide that place to build an infrastructure for Fractal communities and work together toward shared goals like improving our software and finding funding opportunities and so forth, and providing a space where everybody can get involved with that. So I suppose that's a bit more overview. I already shared some of that probably, but that's just a bit more overview about how I thought about responding to Das's post there. So I see Tom wrote some stuff in the chat. If you want to unmute and share it out loud, feel free, Tom. Otherwise, I can also read out loud too. Tom was saying, perhaps in place of the weekly fractal/respect meetings, maintain a status update page to reward sharing work leading up to a monthly meeting with a high value presentation work at the monthly meeting. So that is an interesting idea too, and that could work. There also is the asynchronous respect games on the Respect.Games app too, which could work as like the status update page. And we also have been thinking about doing like a higher order fractal where there's more wide contributions, and that's fairly similar to what Tadas is sharing, I think, with the monthly meeting, but also has some key differences too. So we'd be happy to hear more of your thoughts about that, Tom, if you want to share. And also, I see Tadas raise his hand, so we'll pass it back over to Tadas.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, so what I would like to present a summary of my response to Dan's response. Uh, yeah, I already made some comments on his article, but I think now I can make a more concise summary. Yeah, so first of all, I concede that there are weaknesses in my proposed schedule. I don't think it's optimal, and I don't propose we move to it anytime soon. But regarding the problems I was talking about, I don't think that Dan's proposed solution solves these problems, or at least not in a way not in a way that not in a proper way, I would say. And specifically, what I don't like about the proposed solution is using Eden Fractal to solve problems of Optimism Fractal or problems of ORDAO. Well, first of all, in principle, the way I look at fractals is that they are a type of DAO and decentralized autonomous organization, and autonomy is a key point, I think, here. And when comparing Optimism Fractal and Eden Fractal, uh, Optimism Fractal's mission is to help the Superchain, so it's a DAO focused on helping the Superchain, and mission of Eden Fractals is growing all fractals, so growing all DAOs which like correspond to the category of fractal type of DAO. So for me, mission of Eden Fractal encompasses mission of Optimism Fractal. And then in a sense, it's kind of a like meta fractal, or I don't know, parent fractal, because actually the Optimism Fractal initiative was born out of people who participated in Eden Fractal and who met in Eden Fractal. So in a sense, it was like Eden Fractal did birth Optimism Fractal. And so right now when we are saying that to solve problems of our DAO or to solve problems of Optimism Fractal, we should use meetings of Eden Fractal, I see a problem. I see a problem that we are saying that we are giving up autonomy of Optimism Fractal. We are expecting like we are expecting this larger fractal like to solve problems for the smaller fractals. I think the opposite way is the way to go, where smaller new fractals experiment with new solutions, come up with new creative solutions, experiment, and then share their findings in Eden Fractal, and compare them with what other fractals are experimenting with. So we do new experiments with we try out new stuff with new fractals, smaller fractals, and when it comes to big established fractals, we just pick the best stuff. So yeah, and aside from that, I see issue that it would be very hard for Eden Fractal to accommodate needs for all the fractals. It would be, and in general, for me, it's a direction towards a more traditional type of politics governance, where you create kind of a union, and that union of political entities, and that union ends up controlling the smaller units instead of being a democracy of smaller units. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just my philosophy on these things.
Thank you, Tadas. Of course, if anyone else wants to jump in, then feel free. But I have some responses here. Also, by the way, we did move the Optimism Town Hall to an hour time slot at the end of last year too. So we have 20 minutes left. We can also wrap it up at a different time if we want as well. But yeah, feel free to jump in. But otherwise, I'd like to ask some questions, Stas, and appreciate you sharing the response to my response to your response to my response, and now I'll give a response to your response or something like that. So, well, so in my mind, I don't know if you had the chance to deeply read it, and I also didn't have the chance to respond to all of your comments. I responded to all of them on the Growing Together article, but I saw you wrote two other comments on the article about or actually one other article about the Cagendas. Maybe I can bring that up too to help guide on what I'm talking about here, because I wonder, like to me, it seems like an obvious choice. Like I felt like, and it was actually special thanks to Rosmari too, because I was previously thinking about introducing Eden Town Hall. So for about a year and a half, I hosted an event called Eden Town Hall, which I've been thinking of bringing back at some point. And we have a bunch of episodes, edentownhall.com, and currently it's on pause basically. But I figure also the website is kind of messed up. I had to watch videos and didn't go to the right place. I had to fix it. But I think like in my longer term vision, so I was thinking that at first I was thinking about bringing back like a respect game at Eden Fractal for 2025, where we focus on like fostering or we play respect games with the game prompt for advancing governance, coordination, public goods, and like really kind of spreading out and inviting a lot of people to join. But Tadas's article just made me realize that it's not the right time for that. Basically, it'd be kind of spreading out too much, and I don't think that's the right role for Eden Fractal to play right now. But maybe in 6 months, something like that. And I also thought about having a respect game of what you do to grow the fractal ecosystem at Eden Fractal, but I think that's also something we could do later. Um, and I'm thinking about like putting out a roadmap. I think at some point it'd be interesting to like kind of bring back Eden Town Hall. So Eden Fractal has a Eden Town Hall right after it, similar to how Optimism Fractal has a Optimism Town Hall right after it, and eventually Eden Fractal can have its own respect games. Like that, that's how I'm seeing. I'm seeing both Eden Fractal can play this role as the higher order fractal that has like quarterly kinds of retro polls that we had to measure contributions in the fractal ecosystem, as well as still having these biweekly events. Because I still feel like Eden Fractal in this event structure could really serve more to the fractal ecosystem than it could if it just has events, say, once every like 2 months or so, which was the original proposal here. And I also do, by the way, encourage people to check out edenfractal.com if you're not familiar with what we're talking about. I made a lot of updates to the website over the past couple of weeks, and we have all of the 110 videos or 115 videos you can watch to learn more. And also, there's a new blog section too that has a bunch of blog articles that kind of provide an overview about fractal governance and fractal democracy. And I think this is one of the benefits of doing bi-weekly events at Eden Fractal is that we can promote like these fractal decision making process. That's what I was trying to add in these blog articles to try to give an idea about what our fractal decision making process and really provide that kind of supplementary resource whenever we promote an event, along with the intents that help to guide it. But all right, so I got a bit distracted because there's some other stuff I wanted to share there. But let me go back now to respond to Das's feedback. And so Das had shared this comment up here. Saying that eFractal needs Cagendas in addition to planned respect games meetings. So I'm not sure if we should have respect game meetings planned for Eden Fractal right now, to be clear. I think that what we should do is just to have Eden Fractal Cagendas where we can propose respect game meetings on that biweekly basis, and we could discuss if we want to have an open discussion like this, or if we want to play a respect game for what you do to contribute to the discussion about funding, or what you play a respect game for who helped the fractal ecosystem the most, or play a respect game for who helped build ORDAO the most, or whatever it is. And of course, there could also be other meetings outside of this as well, if we want to schedule them. But I'm just thinking with that Eden Fractal existing brand, and now that we're implementing the ORDAO software at Eden Fractal, we can use that respect token to allow people to vote for topics with everything we built with us on Snapshot and stuff like that at Awesome Town Hall. So my suggestion would be we save respect game meetings at Eden Fractal for maybe Q2 or Q3 on like a planned regular schedule, and we just propose them whenever we want for Q1. So like we'd still probably play respect games, but we'd propose, hey, next week let's play a respect game to discuss funding and see who contributes the most discussion or something like that. And then maybe in like Q2, Q3, then we introduce recurring respect games for like some specific purpose. So just to make that clear. And then I think that also you said you'd alternate between Cagendas and the respect game, focus on discussion. And I think that having Cagendas just solves that basically, where we can just decide what we want to do. At some point when there's demand, we can bring back Eden Town Hall and do Cagendas and the respect game. But I think for now we can just do Eden Fractal and play Cagendas there and discuss. And then I think like, so one of the points you made there, I think you also wrote here, like fractals have many different needs and different fractals have different needs. So we encourage them to evolve independently. And you think it's best to Eden Fractal to position itself as a hub where all independent developments are presented and compared. So I think you mentioned too, like you saw it as Eden Fractal kind of like top-down managing in some way, and maybe compromising on the autonomy and the independence of Optimism Fractal or Eden Fractal, or like kind of merging them too much. But the way I see it is just like it's just providing a service basically for fractal communities. And obviously we can set up different meetings elsewhere as well, and we can discuss things at Optimism Fractal, but it's providing a service for Optimism Fractal and people at the Respect Games app. Like I met with Vlad and several other builders there, and they're figuring out ways to get funding and working to help with that. And this could just provide a way using like eating our own dog food, so to speak, that we either play the respect game test software or play Cagendas to vote on topics. And if there's two alternate implementations that need testing, I mean, why not compete for Eden Fractal's time? I mean, like there's benefits to competition. If it doesn't get the most votes in the Eden Fractal Cagendas 1 week, then you can say, okay, well, maybe we'll vote for it next time. Or if it's that important that people want to test it, then it doesn't stop people from also starting a project-specific fractal just to discuss the Respect Games app or discuss ORDAO or funding or whatever. But it provides a way where like we can use this brand and the video production process and stuff like that we have where they can. And that's kind of been happening already. Like, for example, we've had different events at Eden Fractal where we discuss the Respect Games app and different ones where we discuss OrDAO. And there hasn't been like an overwhelming competition yet at this point. It's kind of just been like whoever wants to join. Usually, we figured out a topic and there's only one topic that seemed like the main topic. And then if there are people who are focused on the funding problem currently and another who want to improve the consensus process of a fractal, yeah, I think same thing there. Like they can compete for time if they want by voting, and if it goes due to next week, it's just a way to prioritize that biweekly meeting, basically. And then we could save it for the next time, or the Optimum Town Hall, perhaps, or just another meeting. So I don't see Tadas how you see it as a like I don't know, in any way like merging them too much. I just see it as Eden Fractal just it plays this role where it's just aiming to help the fractal ecosystem. And I think the best way it can do that right now is just to provide that credibly neutral process using the respect that's earned that lets people vote for topics there. And then it can support Optimism Fractal 1 week, Zao Fractal the next week, Respect Games app community next week, or all three at once or whatever, just depending on what the votes are. So I see you raise your hand there. So I'll pass it back to you, of course. And if there's anything I missed in your comment there too, please feel free to remind me because I'm not sure if I responded to everything. And I'm very curious to get on the same page or better understand your thoughts here.
Yeah, so one thing you mentioned was that Eden Fractal is good for promoting or something along those lines, and why not have different solutions compete for Eden Fractal's time? Sure, and I think that's what Eden Fractal can excel at. But like what I was trying to solve was creating optimal environment for creating for uh, facilitating creative solutions to specific problems. And when in your response you suggested changing Eden Fractal meeting structure, changing agendas, I took it as saying that Eden Fractal can solve these problems. So my response is that no, it would be better to create project-specific meetings for these things. We can still have Eden Fractal meetings, but then again, for me, if we have project-specific meetings, for me personally at least, Eden Fractal meetings would be too often if they happen bi-weekly. I can't like say, I can't say that we shouldn't, we must not have them or something, but we can still have them. But for me, it seems like less than optimal. Let's just say that. But like when you say that, yeah, people are free to create their project specific fractals and we still can compete for Eden Fractals time. Yeah, I agree with that part.
Okay, interesting. Well,
Because look, like everything, you're very good at optimizing these meetings for presentations, for making you're focused on how to make a meeting such that it's good not just for participants but for also new people and also for any watchers or listeners. And this is why like before the town hall you spend like 10 minutes presenting everything like context. And I understand that is necessary because new people might be watching and so on. And so we need those kinds of meetings. But for me, maybe it's just my perfectionism, but like it would be even better to also have a meeting where people who are already in the fractal ecosystem and already participating, where we can come, everyone already knows the context, or we don't spend too much time on it, and we just very much focus, not focus on how to make a good recording, good content, and good branding, but where we focus on making the coming up with solutions.
yeah, well, I agree with that. And as you're speaking, I think I'm like coming out with kind of new ideas for how how this could work, or the various roles of these communities. So, and the various roles of these events. So, we used to have, for example, the Eden Fractal brainstorming sessions that Patrick used to host, where we specifically kind of like dived into it, where we dived into specific things, which is maybe kind of like a little bit what you're thinking about with the project specific fractals. If people wanted to go, I think edencreators.com/brainstorming. There's a whole bunch of them there. Thanks to Patrick for hosting these back in the day. Um, and this is actually where we came up with Cagendas for the first time. Cagendas, the first time that we discussed Cagendas and the proposal and several other things, like we were discussing the delegates and the MSIGs and moderation and stuff like that. So we had like these focus discussions here, but these were produced too. So these Patrick did provide some context here, but it was kind of more getting into it. I know that I try to make my presentation short, but there's always just so much to share. Kind of this, they tend to get long, so I'm always working to make that shorter. But I agree. Like if we want to optimize our time, then like having meetings without presentations can save us 10 minutes basically of like kind of those presentations. And these Eden Fractal and Optimism Fractal, they are aiming to have like be accessible for everybody in a way. So we do it would be helpful to have these kinds of more like focused discussions. I'm also sharing, by the way, the first meeting where we discussed agendas back. I proposed this at the first Eden Vector brainstorming session like 2 years ago almost. So just showing people on the screen in case we want to see. But yeah, so my thinking is basically, and I see Rosmari raise her hand, so I'll pass over to Rosmari in a second. But I think for the reasons that I described here, it still makes a lot of sense to keep Eden Fractal with this biweekly schedule. Open other ideas. I know Rosmari had at some point suggested a monthly schedule too, but to me, it makes most sense to have Eden Fractal the biweekly schedule. If it's too much for people at some times, then of course they can't make it, but it allows us to provide the this weekly event cadence, which I think is really nice, where people can get involved with that kind of like more accessible format that anybody can join, anybody can learn, and people can kind of depend on, even if they're not super involved with the fractal ecosystem. But it also provides a way that people who are involved with the fractal ecosystem, say they just join Optimism Fractal or Zao Fractal, but they want to get involved more with the fractal ecosystem as a whole, as opposed to just the specific goals of fractal. It provides a place where we can do that, and we can provide context for everybody, and we can have that structured discussion, and we can experiment with respect games and so forth. And I think accomplish a lot of what you're aiming to accomplish, Das, with like having that space for testing, because that's also a place that you're testing, that you were talking about too, because people in the fractal ecosystem are much more okay with testing stuff than people who are just coming to Optimism Fractal for the first time and they're building on base like that, as well as some of the other. I think at least to some extent it solves for everything that you're aiming to achieve here with the with having like I think it's in line with your idea for mating cadence and community engagement to some extent at least, and it provides a place that the whole fractal ecosystem can talk about funding, and we can record that and share it so more people can learn about it in that kind of accessible way, and also have that structured deliberation with that process. And I think that's also one thing that I still don't know about your vision about if we are to have project specific fractals, then like exactly what are they? And I suppose maybe you just haven't gotten that far into it and started writing it down, but that's something I'd love to see. Like, what would be like the specific proposal? Like, because I think that I agree, like there can be a lot of benefit in having, um, in addition to this bi-weekly Eden Fractal agendas, if the community is up for it, as I think is a good idea, have say once a week or something like that, scheduled funding specific fractal if there's enough demand for it. And I don't know if there will be, but like if people are interested in that, then I think that could be very helpful to have as a way to just have like more internal discussions and save that 10 minutes and have it like that. I'm not sure if it'd be worth it overall, because we could probably get a lot of that done in Eden Fractal, but I'm open to it. And I could see how Eden Fractal, like it's more focused on the fractal communities and the fractal ecosystem than Optimism Fractal. So it's more internal, but it's still somewhat external. Whereas what you're suggesting, it's kind of more like Orda office hours in a way, where it's even more internal than Eden Fractal. And it's really focused on reducing the context, optimizing the time for the internal community. So I could see that kind of balance where Optimism Fractal is like kind of going out the most. Eden Fractal is more focused on the fractal community, but still promoting it and within the fractal community and having it public and stuff with context provided. And then on the other end of the spectrum is like a project specific fractal that's like more internal and focused. And maybe there's room for all three of those as well. But I saw Rosmari had her hand up too. So Rosmari, would love to hear your thoughts. I saw you raise it, but you would love to hear your thoughts if there's anything you want to share.
Okay. So yeah, how about we make I don't know, like a weekly meeting where it can be like more so internal, where we can like just touch base with each other and see if we need help for testing out something or talking about funding. Maybe give each other's updates on like what we're focusing on, and maybe that one doesn't need to be recorded, or if it's recorded, doesn't have to be like published. It can just be as unlisted for anyone if they want to listen, but it can be kind of like open for whoever wants to join and wants to like contribute, but in kind of more like a more of a like a direct way where we just like brainstorm and kind of get to the point and yeah, find solutions quicker probably. Something like the office hours we used to have with the Optimistics, but this can be open for like more, and it doesn't need to be just under like Optimistics. It can be just like a working group for a specific, either for a specific project, but I think it's pretty good to just have in one meeting, and then we from there like decide what we'd like to focus on within the time that we have.
Good points. Thank you very much, Rosmari. So Tadas gave a thumbs up, and I saw also I saw Will wrote, I agree there could be room for all three. Got a couple thumbs up from me and Tadas, and he said internal meetings where he'd prefer it. Tadas, I want to just add one thing maybe before you go. Feel free to jump in if you want, but something that Rosmari reminded me of too. I was I was planning, in addition to releasing this article, to also get into contact with you, Tadas, as well as some other builders like Vlad and other people in the ecosystem. Because I think that Rosemary she brought up something interesting. We used to have Optimistics team meetings with with Vlad as well, and three of us, and then we stopped doing those about 6 or 7 months ago or something like that. But I was planning to propose that we start those again, and we do those on a biweekly or monthly basis, and that might solve what we're aiming to do as well, having these more internal meetings where we're not producing them publicly. And I don't know if I agree with Rosemary's thought that we should allow anybody to join, because then that kind of reintroduces the context situation where if you allow anybody to join, one, I don't know if we'd want to, because it might disrupt the flow of the conversation if somebody new joins those meetings and they don't know about the needs of the fractal ecosystem and the funding or whatever other project we're working on. So we could have some sort of like maybe requirement of respect or something like that, that only, maybe certain people can earn the opportunity to join or something like that. But that's something that I was planning to propose as well and planning to reach out about, and maybe I'll try to do that this week. But I think that could also play in the role. I see Will also wrote apologies for not being more vocal on the mic, but having lunch. Hope you're enjoying, and thanks for the thoughts, Will. Also, shout out to Will and Patrick and several others too. Gene and several others said that they'd like to participate in more discussions about how to grow the fractal communities and develop our products and achieve funding and stuff like that. So that's also one of the goals here. I was thinking about Will and Patrick and others when writing this, like thinking about ways that we can provide more opportunities for more people to get involved, and maybe that would be good to grow out. Optimistics has a brand too. So right now Optimistics aren't hosting any meetings themselves. So maybe Optimistics could host more like internal meetings. That's an idea. Maybe it could host this kind of more project specific, and we could do something like that where we just have, a more exclusive thing where we discuss opportunities for growth in a more high context environment. But we're 2 minutes from the top of the hour, but we can go a bit longer. I'm happy to extend it however long we need, but happy to wrap it up when everybody's ready to. I see Rosemary saying maybe respect people with at least some minimal respect. That's a way to do it to gate if we want. Tadas, thanks for your patience, and then we share that ideas. And Tadas, I'll pass over to you now.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, good ideas. Yeah, and regarding reviving Optimistics meetings, I'm for it if we invite more people from Fractals. We can respect gated, like token gated with respect. Although I don't think there is a huge immediate need for that. I don't think that we will have much issues like I did not have any issues with too many people joining or DAO office hours, for example. People who are interested, people who join are usually interested and like have good intent to contribute. Yeah. So I guess, and this would be a simpler option, I guess, to have one weekly meeting where we would go deeper onto specific issues, and it would be scheduled always at the same time. But yeah, then one problem is that before each meeting, again, we would have to decide what we are discussing, and then there is a strong argument for making project-specific fractals. Maybe it does not relate as much to meeting time, but it relates to deploying fractals for solving specific problems. Is that if we deploy a fractal, for example, with a mission to create a funding framework for fractal contributors, for example, and then we do meetings where we submit results based on who contributed the most to coming up with solutions. And then some solution ends up working. And now we have a respect distribution, which basically says who contributed how much to specific problem. And I think this can be a huge tool when thinking ahead. I'm thinking ahead a bit here about funding solutions. I think it can be really helpful to have info data regarding who contributed how much to specific problem.
Very interesting. Okay, yeah, I could for sure see how that could be useful, and it reminds me of back towards the beginning of Optimism Fractal, you and think Bitbackers and Hotline shared some interesting ideas about project-specific fractals and the idea of quests or different things like that, launching respect games for purposes back in the Discord. I think that was in the brainstorming chat if anyone wants to read back there, and we have a project in Notion about it as well. So yeah, that's a good thing to think about. Maybe we can structure this within Optimistics meetings in some way, or maybe we launch some other project specific. I think one of the key things to think about there would be forming consensus on topic. And if we do want to like form consensus on topic in advance, like say if we want to schedule a whole month, for example, how would we do that? What would be the focus and so forth? Also, you said weekly meetings for that. I was also thinking we could do bi-weekly, even monthly too, because I know that the weekly schedule that we do with Optimistics was a little bit, it was kind of a lot with all the meetings. We were also doing weekly Optimism Fractal and weekly Eden Fractal at the same time too. So, but we can decide if we want to do a weekly for that or if we'd want to do bi-weekly or something like that. It might give people more time to prepare. But I suppose those are just things we'd want to discuss about if we want to add this project specific fractal or optimistics meeting or some combination, what would be the means of reaching consensus on topics, potentially like a month in advance or months in advance for multiple meetings, and then who would join and stuff like that. So I suppose that will require some additional brainstorming, but I suppose we could leave it on that because we're past up the hour. Happy to, if you have any last thoughts, Tadas or Rosmari, then feel free to share. Otherwise, we can wrap it up whenever. And this has been quite a productive discussion and very interesting to hear your thoughts. Thanks so much to Das and Rosmari. And so Will said he has to hop, but we'll check the Discord for updates. Thanks everybody for participating in the discussions today and helping in our strategic evolution. Any last comments?
I agree. I think it was productive discussion, and I think I came out with a bit better understanding about what you meant, and I think we will find a solution that works for everyone.
Likewise. Well, it looks like we're on our way already doing deliberation. Look at us growing in 2024. 2025. Got the wrong date. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, I learned a lot about your ideas here, and I think that, the combination of this deliberation, us bringing ideas together and seeing what works best, I think it's going to wind up helping us have a much better strategy for the new year. And I'm really excited for all that we'll do with all this infrastructure laid and the strategy to spark it and grow it. I think this is going to be a big year for us. So, thanks so much to us.
Spark it and grow it. It seems like you were describing like New Year's fireworks.
But fireworks. I think if I know how to do this, I can get like fireworks to show back here. I don't know what the sign is, but yeah, Happy New Year to everybody. I enjoyed hearing about the fireworks and seeing pictures of it on my screen at least. And yeah, kind of makes two metaphors there. I've been thinking growing a fire, like sparking and then growing the fire, which we're aiming to do, and also growing like a plant, but also fireworks, I guess, can work there too.
Slow
Um,
motion fireworks.
yeah, that's right, fractal fireworks. Okay, and so we'll be having more fractal fireworks and all these metaphors at Eden Fractal next week too. So Eden Fractal will continue on the biweekly schedule for now, at least until if we want to decide to do some different thing, then stay tuned. In the Eden Fractal Telegram, the Optimus Fractal Discord, we'll keep you updated there. But we'll meet for Eden Fractal for the first event of the new year for anybody who can join on the 15th, I believe, and we'll meet back for Optimism Fractal and Optimism Town Hall on the no, Eden Fractal will be on the 16th at 17 UTC on next Thursday, and then Eden Fractal and Optimism Fractal and Optimism Town Hall will be on the 23rd of January on Thursday at its regular scheduled time as well. So I look forward to continuing the discussion at the future events and also continue discussion in the chats and figuring out the best solutions from here. Thanks so much, everybody. Special thanks to Das, Rosmari, and everybody out there for watching and being here with us today. Should we wrap it up with a go? What should we wrap it up with? Should we wrap it up with a go 2025 maybe? Just keep it simple like that, or go Optimism Fractal, go Optimism Town Hall, go Fractal Ecosystem. There's so many to do. Go project specific Fractal. What do we say? Go Fractal Fireworks?
I don't know.
Okay. Me neither. So how about we wrap it up? This is Optimism Town Hall, so let's wrap it up with a go Optimism. Keep it simple. 3, 2,
Okay.
1. Go
Go
Optimism. Feeling very optimistic with the new year. Thanks all, and see you next time.